Next, we hear from Jenny in Melbourne, Australia. What is your opinion on this phrase, hard work always pays off? She says, recently I've been working hard to do well in school since it's my final year, but sometimes no matter how hard I work, the results just don't show it. Now, I don't regard myself as a smart person at all. I couldn't tell you anything about simple general knowledge, and the amount of times I'll forget one theory from another is simply amazing. But I've always prided myself on the fact that I work extremely hard, I put a lot of effort to do well, and I've always thought that's all you need to succeed, that it overcomes intelligence or talent, but nowadays I'm finding that hard to believe. Well, here's the thing, and it all depends. The saying exists for a reason. Hard work always pays off, right? Because look, sometimes it does. Sometimes you will bust yourself, you will work so hard, put so much effort into this class, into this pursuit, into this business, etc., etc. And you'll see the results. You will reap the benefits. Sometimes you'll see that financial gain, those good grades. You'll get the following or the respect that you wanted. Sometimes that'll happen, sometimes things will go in your favor. Sometimes, and a lot of people don't really mention this because it's not really a motivational thing to say. What I'm about to say, it's not really going to pressure someone to work harder, where you'll put in a lot of time. You'll put in a lot of resources. You'll put in a lot of effort, a lot of money. You'll have great ideas. You'll implement them. You'll execute them. And nothing happens. Nothing comes of it. Nothing happens. It's like you wasted everything. You put all this time forth, studying, put all these resources forth, and you're no better off than you were when you started, maybe even worse off. So, did hard work pay off in that case? Not really. Because unfortunately, you get bad people in this world. You get people that you can do everything right. You can make all the right moves, do everything that they told you to do, and there's going to be people that'll take advantage of that and screw you over. Unfortunately, there's more people than there really should be in this world that will do such terrible things, and all that hard work will not pay off for you, but it'll pay off for some jerk that really didn't do anything themselves but took advantage of your own work. So the phrase, does hard work pay off, is partially true. I hate to get, again, I wish that there was a world where that would be the case. That hard work and the effort put in for a just cause would pay off and you would reap the benefits and the results would be positive. But unfortunately, the answer is that it depends on the circumstances. There will be some cases where it will, and don't get me wrong, where if you put forward all that effort academically, you will do well in the class. And there will be times when you put forth all this work and it doesn't go your way, you don't get the grade that you wanted to get, and it's like, why did I even bother? The thing you have to remember is that while it depends on the circumstance, is that if you put no effort in, if you become demoralized and you say, well, maybe hard work doesn't pay off, so I'm just not going to do anything to begin with. There's one thing that most certainly does not pay off. It's doing absolutely nothing. If you sit there in a class and you don't do anything, you don't take down notes, you don't complete any of the assignments, you don't take any of the tests, then you're going to fail. It's plain and simple. If you go to work and you sit there and you do absolutely nothing, and I'm saying in the most literal sense, you do absolutely nothing. Let's say you have a service industry job and you have to wait tables. Now, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sit there and I'm not going to do anything. You're not going to have that job for much longer. And if you do absolutely nothing in class, you're not going to be passing that class. So remember, even if hard work does not always pay off, doing nothing and giving up, that is the one way to most certainly fail. Chances are, if you put forth that effort, if you put forth that time, that dedication, that persistence and perseverance, chances are that there will be those results. It might not always be picture perfect. It might not always be exactly what you hoped for it to be. Look, it might exceed your expectations. It might not fully meet those expectations. But the thing that you have to realize is that doing nothing guarantees failure. But by throwing your hat in the ring, by giving it your best, by putting forth that effort, you never know what the outcome is going to be. And more often than not, it will be positive. So don't become very despondent and get down just because there are times where the work will not be worth it. Doing nothing guarantees failure. Always keep that in mind. Thank you for your topic suggestion. Next we hear from Julia, who says, how have you become so fluent in public speaking? Seems as that it comes off very natural to you. Is that so? Do you have any tips and tricks for becoming a better public speaker? Well, here's the thing. Public speaking is a very intimidating thing, and it's intimidating for me. When I do live streams, that's pretty much being very close to a live audience. The amount of anxiety that I feel before I turn that camera on is incredible. Oh, I'm so shaky. Sometimes it gets to the point where I just feel physically ill. I feel like I'm just going to throw up and vomit, and it gets that bad, and I can barely maintain myself, barely keep my composure. I want to quit. And I've been doing this for years and years, and it still gets to me. So, even though it might come off that it's very smooth, it most certainly isn't. There's plenty of issues, there's plenty of bumps, there's plenty of things that I could be doing much, much better. And I have my anxieties, I have my fears. It's something that I deal with to this very day. So while it might come off as smooth, I have my anxieties and I have my worries. One of the best things that you can do when it comes down to public speaking is practice. Practice makes perfect. If you have anxiety, it's going to complicate things. Complicated things for me. But one thing that you have to realize is that when it comes down to public speaking, most other people aren't the best public speakers either. I remember in 2015 I had to take a public speaking class. And, you had to go up there and you had to give lectures, you had to give presentations, you had to give monologues. And this was a large class. There were probably, maybe 30 people in it. And every single person that was up there was nervous, they were anxious, they were stumbling over their words, couldn't really keep it together. And when you realize that, you realize, I'm not the only one that's having these anxieties. I'm not the only one that's having these difficulties with public speaking. And when you kind of realize that you are not alone, it makes you feel like, okay, I'm having these issues, I'm having these troubles, I'm having these difficulties, but at least I'm not the only one that's like this. It's not like everyone else is up there giving a TED Talk and giving the best speech you've ever seen before. Most other people have the exact same issues that you do as well. But like I said, practice makes perfect. One thing that you could always do is you can try to rehearse. Let's say you have to give a presentation, right? Rehearse it. Just talk to yourself. Go ahead and try to give those talking points, talk about whatever it is that you want to or need to, and do it to an audience of one. Give the presentation to yourself or to your friends or to your family or whoever will listen. Film it if you need, and in doing so, it'll smooth out some of the issues. Now, one pointer that I do want to give in regards to public speaking is not to write a script, word for word, line for line, and make it too reliant on the text. That's one thing if you're giving a political speech and you have the teleprompters there and you have to be very, very careful in what you say. But in regards to a lecture, or most forms of public speaking, having all of the lines there completely typed out and having everything there in front of you as a script is not the way to go about it. because doing so, all of a sudden, okay, you're focused on all of these lines and this entire script. I think you're going to be hearing some loud noises soon, so just brace yourself. Maybe not. There we go. Some construction down the street. One thing that you have to remember, if you lose your place with that script, you're done. I've seen times where people have this big long script. Everything they want to say in the presentation is there. And they're nervous, they have the anxieties, and all of a sudden they lose their place. And they fall apart. They lose their composure. They don't know what they're going to say next. One very important thing when giving a presentation is to bullet down the key points, and maybe a few little subsets of those, and then try and just go off of everything else in your head. And if you get stuck, then look at the bullet point and just elaborate a little bit off of that. So then, alright, you lose your place, there's no real lines that you forgot. You can just come up with something on the spot, tell a little personal anecdote, a little story. That's the way to do it. Not to have the lines down continuously, because otherwise you lose your place and you're done. And that's it. For instance, when I do this show, like I'm doing right now, I have on my computer the list of questions that listeners asked me, but I don't have the answers written down. I don't have all of this written down word for word and line for line. I just have the basic questions, so then if I lose my place, I can look and I can see, oh, okay, alright, I'm on this question here, and it was about this, and then I kind of go off of what I wanted to say in regards to that. So thank you for your question, and just know that everyone has difficulties with public speaking for the most part. I'm going to take a little coffee break. Let's see what else we have. Number one, well, actually, we have two questions about conspiracy theories. First one is from Kaylee in Florida. I'd like to know if you believe in predictive programming and what your thoughts are. Now, I haven't heard the name predictive programming before, though I have heard of the concept. I looked it up, I did a little bit of research on it. Now I feel at least a little qualified to give my thoughts and viewpoint on it. Predictive programming is the theory that if something bad is going to happen, most of the time it's something bad, that the entertainment industry has certain connections to these events, and they will foreshadow it in films, television, the media, so as to brace the public for it and almost desensitize them to certain events. I don't really believe in predictive programming. The one thing that, the biggest question I would have in regards to it is why hasn't anyone in the entertainment industry came out and spilled the beans about it? If it is such a thing, you'd think there'd be so many people out there in Hollywood that would know this and would go out and would say, yes, this is real. In the movie such and such, yes, we did foreshadow these attacks or this crisis or this issue, controversy. Why hasn't anyone come out and said that? You would think that even if it was a huge cover-up, there would be people out there that would eventually, because you know how some people are, they cannot keep a secret forever, and they would just let it out. So why hasn't that happened yet? One thing that I could maybe think of is if perhaps there was an issue and certain media companies or organizations were involved in covering something up, I could imagine that maybe someone would have a guilty conscience and would try to maybe let out little clues and hints of this or that, just because they feel very guilty, but I don't believe that there would be this mass effort to desensitize people about this by foreshadowing things in major media events. So that's my 2 cents there. Secondly, what do you think about the conspiracy theory that the first moon landing in 1969 was faked? I don't believe that the moon landing was fake. I don't. I don't think that it was faked at all. Some of the best proof that you can use is literally get a telescope, look at the moon, and you see where they landed. You see where the little moon buggies were. You can see that all with a telescope from Earth. So as a result, how did that stuff get there if it was faked then? did they just do it all in a studio, but then to make it really realistic, they just sent this stuff up to the moon anyway, just to throw you off? So I think that the moon landing in 1969 definitely happened. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the moon landing was done, of course, for the sake of scientific accomplishment. But it cannot be forgotten that in the 60s, there was the Cold War going on, the space race, right? That's why we were we were pushing to get into space and to go to the moon. It wasn't really to say, this is how far we've come. It's to say, all right, you Soviets, get a load of this. You might have gotten Sputnik and been the first thing in space, but we got to the moon first, so there you have it. That's kind of what it was all about. It was just this competition, the space race, of course, between the United States and the Soviet Union to see, all right, who can get to the moon first? Who is the more advanced superpower at this point in time? And you had lots of propaganda on both sides. It was all this race to say, look, my country is better than your country. No, no, no. Actually, this country is better than this, and so on and so forth. So, you have to remember that. You have to remember that the light that it was done under, that it was kind of like, yeah, look at how much better we are than you. We did this first. And with that being taken into account, could a few things have been touched up for the sake of having the best, picture-perfect accomplishment imaginable? Because it was a huge accomplishment. Could be. Is there a definitive proof? Absolutely not. But is it possible that things were touched up a little bit to make it look, again, picture perfect and as good, as smooth, as flawless as it could have been? It's a possibility. Because again, it's a form of propaganda. It's a form of saying, look at what we did. You didn't. But there's no way of proving that. But without a shadow of a doubt, we went to the moon in 1969. Case closed. We were there, we set foot on it, and I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that was not faked, and we were most definitely there. VORWINFO@gmail.com is the address for correspondence, feedback, and comments.